Good morning everyone and welcome back to another episode of Bareham Engines. So guys, on this absolutely cracking day, I'm leaving a bit early today because it's our Cruisy's 10th birthday, so we got a bit of a party at 3 o'clock, so I got to leave a bit early, so got plenty going on in here. Had a good old clean up actually, a good sort out, made plenty more room, got loads going on in there. But first of all guys, I just want to thank you all for your really kind comments and your emails etc. from the last video. As you all know, I've done my best from the very beginning to sort of tell you what's going on with myself and with the business. I feel that two things. One, by talking about the issues that I've had in the past and still the issues that I may have a little bit now. It's obviously a fundamental part of the business because I'm the one that runs the whole show really. So how I'm affected is how the business is affected really in the long run. And also secondly, I really do like the thought that I'm helping people by talking about this mental health issues, etc. By looking at the comments, it's surprising how many people are sort of affected by it. So all are positive guys, and thanks ever so much again for your nice comments. Right guys, just getting everything ready for the Focus RS Mark 1. Ordered most of the bits today and yesterday, so I've got all that in order. I'm just facing the block, ready for it to be honed out. So this is the third tooth thou cut. Now the reason I'm doing tooth thou cuts is because I want to take as little as possible off this one, as I do all of them really, but just out of interest to see if it had been blowing. Now the first tooth thou, the block didn't clean at all, so it was sort of gone in between the pots. The second tooth thou, it cleaned, but it left a little bit on the back number 4 cylinder. You see that there around the gasket line? So this will be 6 thou now, and that should clean. So it's not disastrous, but you've just got to bear that in mind for when I do a dummy build to take some off the piston crowns, and then obviously maybe some out the bowl to keep the compression ratio, depending on how much we've got to take off the head. But yeah, the pistons I've ordered for this, I think it's 84.8 bore, and I've gone 85, so there's just 8 thou to come out of these bores, which is ideal. So all I'm going to do is rough hone that out. I'm not even going to bother boring it, and that will just take it out to a nice round figure, leave as much meat in the bores as possible, because this thing's going to be running potentially about 450 horsepower. So yeah, that should be the block sorted. The cylinder head guys, all the bits are over there next to John, and Isaac has got the crank assembly over the back here. So I've just ordered a Sachs clutch, which is an organic type, but it's the one that was on there originally. The only thing is, you can see it has been slipping, so the clutch didn't look very good at all. And as with that sort of torque and power, it's a bit of a compromise on the clutch. Really, I suppose you should be running a paddle plate, but they're not very nice underfoot, we all know that. So the crank is perfect, measures good, so we're going to balance that and then polish it afterwards. And Isaac, once he's finished that flywheel over there for the 300 TDI, he's going to face this one. But yeah, you can see some nasty hard spots in there, but fortunately there's plenty of meat on these flywheels to take material off. So and obviously with whatever we have to take off, it just reduces a little bit of weight anyway, so that's ideal. Yeah, just wait for that clutch cover to turn up guys, and we can get that finished. So hopefully this engine's going to be well on the way by probably middle of next week, I would say. So guys, got a couple of A series here. I noticed in the comments yesterday, a couple of people suggested we sort of try and do a little bit more on the older engines as opposed to just the Cosworths and the Fords, which I must admit, I do apologise guys, but we have had a lot of the Fords lately. But we have also had quite a lot of the old stuff which John's been doing. The only thing is, half the time I don't know what John's up to with it, but this here is an A series engine. We have got, as you can see, the crank there, which has been balanced. We've balanced the clutch and the flywheel and the front pulley, so that is all done. The cylinder head is over here. We've got 2 cylinder heads from the customer. We've decided to go along with this one, and the reason for that is this one here had some I think had some rather funny marks and a couple of suspicious looking, what could be potentially cracks, but maybe not. It could be serviceable, but we've just decided to go ahead with this one anyway. So what we've done is, you can see there, we've put the 3-angle seats on all of these, but this has been unleaded. So what we've done to unlead it is we've removed the existing exhaust seats and put them in with the unleaded material inserts in there. Obviously all new valves, the head has been refaced. We have got new bearings from King there. We have sized and balanced the conrods. We've got a new set of plus 60 pistons on their way, and also a new uprated camshaft from Newman Cams. So that is 1A series. The customer's building that one, guys. And this one here, pretty much the same thing really. Same sort of thing here, guys. We've got to, I think John's done a bit of a dummy build here, but we have still got to balance that crank assembly. We're just waiting for the clutch and the flywheel, which apparently has been sent to us 2 weeks ago, but seems to have gone missing in the post. So that's slightly concerning. John's had to grind this crankshaft. You can see there he's ground the crank. We have sized and balanced the rods. Set of pistons we have got there with obviously the rings. Very nice little engine to do. Most of the time we get these dribbling in constantly just from machining. A lot of the people that get involved with these or own these like to do them themselves, to be honest with you. So we just get to do the machining, which suits us down to the ground. Right then, guys, it's that time of year again. It comes around all too fast for me, but it's service time for the Lamborghini. Now, before you all start throwing the comments out there saying, listen, why are you moaning about the price? If you buy a Lamborghini, surely to God you must know that you're going to have to pay through the roof for servicing, this, that, the other. This ain't about that. This is about principle for me. So, if to my regular viewers, if you watched about a year ago, I did 2 or 3 videos on this scenario or situation with Bristol Lamborghini. Just to cut a very long story short, I've had the car, this is my 3rd year now. So the first year when I bought it, the car is, bear in mind the car's mint, no stone chips, no nothing like that. That's what I wanted. I wanted a really good LP Gallardo. It's a 1-owner car before me. It was always serviced at Lamborghini London, I think, and Lamborghini Leicester for a couple of years. Obviously, now I'm down the southwest. My local one is Bristol, which is just over 100 miles away. So, coming up 3 years ago, I had its first service. So, the first year, I've sent it to Lamborghini Bristol. They got in touch with me and sort of estimated that it's going to be around 1,500 quid. They've come and picked the car up in a 1-car enclosed truck, you know, guy in the suit and tie and all the rest of it. Can't fault it. He's picked it up from my house, took it away. They've serviced it, done the usual oil change, plugs, filters, washer fluid, remote battery. They've MOT'd the car. They brought it back, delivered it on my drive, and it come to, I think it was just over 1,500 quid, including the VAT. And that was only extra because they unplugged the valves on the exhaust for me to make it a little bit fruitier, below 2.5 grand. Anyway, done that, no qualms whatsoever. Second year, sent it up to, rang them up again. They've picked the car up again, took it away, MOT'd it, done the service, blah de blah. They sent me an estimate without me ringing them. So by now they've got the car. They've sent me an estimate for just under 3,000 quid, including the VAT. And I thought, hang on a minute, that's twice as much. So I've given them a ring and I said, look, there's no hours on the labour on the bill. It's just a set amount. It's like 1,350 quid plus the VAT for the labour. No amount of hours, no labour rate, nothing like that on there. Then you've got the service kit. Now they list it as a service kit, not individual oil and filter and all that. The only thing extra on there was the gearbox oil. Basically, that's 381 quid for the gear oil, and then I suppose some of the labour is to do that. So I rang them up and I said, look, not being funny, but how come it's 1,500 quid to change the gear oil? He said, "Ah, well, no, it's the fuel for the transporter and all this has gone up and etc. Things have gone up." Yeah, I appreciate that. It has for us as well. But I said, look, what I didn't even realise that there was different stages of service. I thought if I wanted the gear oil done, then I would have asked you to do the gear oil. Oh no, there's 4 stages of service. And I said, right, what do they entail? Well, they couldn't really tell me. They said, oh, well, it depends what vehicle it is. And I said, well, the only thing is, I said, we need to come up with some sort of plan, because obviously that makes a big difference on whether I keep the car or I don't. I said, because if we get to stage 4 and we're up near 10 grand, it ain't worth me keeping the thing. I mean, I said, look, I'm sure you hear this is, you know, this is a familiar story. I said, but I bought the car because I love the car. I don't use it very often, which is my choice. Need to keep the miles low, understand how all the supercar thing works now. But it's not worth me on that age of vehicle. You know, it's coming up, it's 14 years old now. I said, it's not worth me spending several £1,000s a year servicing it. I said, if it needs it right down the line, then yes, fine. But I spoke to a couple of people, and apparently, you know, on the new stuff, like if I bought a new Aventador, then that's what you got to do. I said, but surely they get to an age where, does it matter? Well, yeah, they do. Okay, we'll work. This was the manager now speaking. He said, right, okay, well, I'll work you something out. So he said he'll do it as like a 3-stage thing because of the age. Next year's going to be the stage 3. And that's going to be, they'll do that at about £4,500 and then it will revert back to the stage 1. And I thought, well, this is getting silly. So every 3 years, what you're telling me is it's going to cost me £9,000 in 3 years to service. Sounds like quite a lot to me. So I've had a moan, kicked off, this, that, the other. They said, well, we won't do the gearbox oil, you know, don't have to do it. We can do that in the next one. We'll do it for £2,300. So that's what they did it for. So obviously all year, and as I put in a video back about a year ago, I said, I'm going to have to get in touch with an independent. So I've got in touch with Ricky from RE Performance, who is a V10 specialist. He does the R8s, the Lambos. And I've had a chat with him about this. He said, yeah, that's a bit naughty and very vague. So he sent me an estimate back then, which was like nothing like it. He says, don't worry about the gearbox oil. You don't have to do that till X amount. Because the gearbox oil, bear in mind, was done the 2 months before I bought it. He said that's really sort of mileage dependent. So I've waited till this year. I was going to use Ricky, still might. So Ricky sent me an updated estimate, which was the same as last year. So his prices haven't gone up. And his estimate comes out at £832, including the VAT. And that's for oil, filter, pollen filter, brake fluid, basically what they did for £1,500. The only difference is I got to get the car to him and back. If I got someone to do that for me, that's going to be £500-600. So we're almost there. For the sake of £200-300, is it worth the Lamborghini stamp? Do you know what I mean? I would say for £200-300 extra, it probably is worth just getting that Lambo stamp. But obviously, that's not the plan. They've planned on charging me a stage 3, which is £4,500. So that's all they could do. This year, I thought, do you know what? After Ricky sent me that, I'm going to try me luck. So I've sent Lamborghini Bristol an email saying, listen, this is the deal. You've been looking after my car. I would like to keep this Lamborghini service stamp, of course. I use the car X amount of mileage. It ain't worth me. It's in a bit of a collection. I just want a basic service. What can you do? They got back in touch with me, surprisingly, and said, that's absolutely fine, Mr. Marshall. We would love to obviously keep looking after your car. We will, of course. Now, where is the quote or the estimate? There it is. We will, of course, obviously transport costs have gone up slightly from the very first year, but we will, of course, do everything that we did in the first year for £1,680, including the VAT. So it's gone up £180, something like that, probably a bit less than that. So yeah, what the hell was happening last year? Don't understand it. In the meantime, I thought I'm going to get an estimate from Lamborghini Leicester. They've sent me one for the reg of my vehicle for £5 under £3,000 including the VAT. That's not including picking it up, but they said they can pick it up and drop it off for £1,166 including the VAT. Tell me guys, any of you people that work in sort of supercar main dealers, how is this working? Are they just making it up as they go along, or are they trying to suss out which people have got what money? I ain't got a clue, but this all don't make sense to me, guys. Also, please comment down below on whether you think that I should just take it to Lamborghini Bristol this year for what looks like pretty much twice as much money, or do I take it to Ricky at RE Performance? Let me know what you think, guys. I'm confused. This one here is the Focus Smart 1 RS stuff. So as you can see, I've laid it all out. This is what I normally do, and you've got to be careful on whatever cylinder head you're doing these 16 valve ones now these days, because you can see here we've got a top hat shim on there. So you get various different types of bucket. You get obviously the hydraulic bucket, you get the solid bucket with a shim underneath, which would go on top of the spring top, and then you've got the bucket goes on top of that. You get the solid bucket with no shims at all, which are a bit of a nightmare if you've got the head still on the car, because you have to change buckets as opposed to shims. But then you've got this one here with the big shim that goes on top of the bucket there. So 4 different types really, and then you go on to the roller rockers and what have you. But yeah, we keep this laid out as it comes out the head, then obviously clean it all up, and when we've done the head, obviously these valves are all going to be shot blasted, faced, and once we've done that, like I've said to you before, we normally do the clearances off the valves, because all these buckets are the same, all the shims are the same size, so rather than mix them up and, you know, spend money on shims and start grinding, we just take it off the valve. On these, you can see there, you've got plenty of meat on top of the valve to take material off if need be. And if you need to take some off the face, you can see how thick that face is there. So you're only talking a matter of a few thou, but it's just a lot easier to do it on the bench, off the valves, and then you can just keep all the standard size shims. So that's what we'll be doing. Right then guys, the bits for Tom Garnett. So Isaac has finished the cylinder head, he's given that a good clean, done the valve seats, all of the guides there. We've got Tom's old bits here, so the bearings, gudgeon pins, pistons. So give that back to him. We've cleaned all the other bits up. He's just outside now, as you can see over there, just cleaning the block. The block is finished honed. We've checked it off the piston as we normally do. Obviously, never take it for granted that the piston is going to measure less the running clearance. So we've double checked that. Everything's absolutely fine. And what I'm doing here is just putting the pistons on the rods. So we've cleaned up the rods. We've checked the small ends compared to the new gudgeon pins, not the old ones. Everything's absolutely fine. But what I'm doing, because I've obviously skimmed the head, we've got the thickest head gasket, which is apparently about 12 thou thicker than the original. But what I'm doing is I'm just taking off 10 thou off the top of the pistons. And that's because I've removed, I think it was 8 thou off the block face. So what I normally do, as you can see here, I've done these 3. Oh, just get this one out. You can see that, I've put the arrow so we know that it's facing forward, because obviously we've machined the arrow off the surface of the piston there. So we'll go and mark this one up, we'll get it in the lathe, remove the 10 thou and then get this one on the rod, and pretty much that is it for Tom, he's all ready to collect. So guys, the Focus RS, this is the cylinder head, believe it or not, that grotty thing is now no longer. We have stripped this head completely out, removed all oil weight bungs, any bungs we can, and we have vapor blasted this. Now, it is of paramount importance with the vapor blasting of any head. Obviously, when this head comes in, particularly underneath where the buckets go, it is just caked. You'll never get that looking lovely without blasting it. Soda blasting, yes, is an option, but we found that soda blasting still, although it is supposedly dissolvable, it does still cram itself in every little nook and cranny, the same as the vapor blaster does really with the glass medium. The only thing is you have got to make sure that your mixture's correct, and the bead doesn't break down and pommel itself into the aluminium. So we have cleaned this. It's thoroughly clean. We'll obviously take it outside now. We've given it a face. I actually give it 2 little licks over just to clean. There was an area around here where it didn't clean. So this thing, if it hadn't already, this was due to blow an head gasket. All we've got to do is just lightly cut the seats, clean up the valves, do all the clearances, etc. But that is looking absolutely like brand new. So as soon as we've cleaned up the block, which is over on the hone over there, this thing's going to be looking lovely. And as I say, middle of next week should be all done. Well, that's it for another video, guys. Unfortunately, a bit of a long one actually today. You can see the weather's lovely today. Got the Lambo out, going to leave a bit earlier today. It's Cruzy's birthday, one of our lads, and I'm going to go to school and surprise him, pick him up in that. But thanks a lot for watching, guys. Till Friday. We'll see you then. Take it easy.